I'm Caroline from Schloss Diel from Nahe, and I'm really happy to talk to you guys today because we're having this unusual situation, and it's great to see you this way. You're not asking any questions. I'm
Okay. All right. I'm gonna.
Hey, I'm Caroline from Schloss Diel in Nahe region. I'm really happy to see you guys this way in this special situation. So let's talk a little bit about 2019 and 2018 vintage. So there's a tractor passing by. I'm sorry for the noise. I took you to the vineyards because I figured you guys see screens and offices all the time, and I just wanted to show you a little bit how green it is here and how nice everything looks. I'm talking a bit about 2019 and 18. Both years were really warm years. However, in 2018, we had a bit more of water during winter and the beginning of the growing season, whereas 2019 was really dry from the beginning on. And however, in 2019, we had quite a bit of rain in the uh, just before harvest time and during harvest time. And 2018 was very dry all the way to the end. So concerning the character of the wines, they actually are quite different in both vintages. I have the feeling that 2018 in Nahe, in our estate, we managed to keep the freshness and the grip minerality in the entire collection really, really well. So in general, you combine in your head your thoughts are you have a warm year, and so you have really ripe grapes and low acidity. That was not true for 2018 at all. The opposite. I think we managed to keep a really, really great freshness in the wines. 2019, however, the acidities are probably even a bit more round than 2018. But the wines are really, really elegant, and I have the feeling really well balanced. In terms of harvest.
Sorry, just when you say more round, you mean like analytically there's less acidity in 2019 than 2018, or just in the way that the wines taste?
More in the way the wines taste than analytically. More in that way. I lost my track right. Okay, no.
You were talking about in the cellar, if you did something a little bit different.
No, during harvest time, exactly. During harvest time, 2018 was just beautiful. We had those really, really great ripe grapes, and everything was just perfect. The grapes were probably the most beautiful grapes I have ever seen in my time of experience of winemaking. And in 2019. Again, the tractor last time. You want to see it? No. I haven't. No. Can you see? We're spraying.
What are they spraying?
So, Cabby, we're in Hurle now. Okay, I'm back. So, sorry about the distraction. 2018 was just beautiful and just perfect. In 2019, we had to wait a little bit. In 2019, actually, in the very beginning, the grapes were not really ripe yet, and then we had to wait for the perfect moment of picking. So it was much more complicated during harvest in 2019 than in 2018. Um, because at the end we had this rainfall in the beginning of harvest, and then again in the middle of harvest, or towards the end, and then you had to react in a really precise way and fast way. Otherwise, you would have had quite a bit of problems with rot. So 2019 was, I would say, um, vintage which was not as easygoing as 2018.
So it was more complicated because of the weather patterns towards the harvest, so in the end of the
Exactly.
season. And
Exactly.
so 2019 was was it as hot as 2018 in terms of weather during the summer?
Um, yes. Yes, it was. It was also at a different moment. It was hot earlier than in 2018. 2018 it was later when it was hot, and 2019 was earlier.
So because of this, did this affect the how much fruit you were able to harvest? Was the 18 harvest larger than the 19 harvest for you?
I'm sorry.
We can't
I
hear the.
didn't understand your question. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I was asking about the size of the harvest. So 18 seemed to be a pretty large harvest in Germany. Was 19 uh, also large, or was it smaller?
No, by far the average was not as big as in 2018. So once again, the tractor is passing by again. You will see our fan just behind me. We're spraying for the first time sulfur and copper right here.
Cool. Vineyards at work. So you're in Hulla right now. Was there a vineyard that you would say was produced particularly beautiful fruit in 2018, and was it the same in 19?
Um, that's a good question. Basically, in 2018, we had in all vineyards beautiful fruit. I mean, there were a few vineyards which were too dry, mainly young vines. But except for that, we had extremely beautiful fruit everywhere. And 2019, it was really a bit less uniform. In 2019, we had, let's say, a bit, probably in the vineyards where we had a bit more water. The fruit was more beautiful and more pretty than in the vineyards which were a bit drier. But it was by far not as uniform.
So 18, you didn't have to do very much selection. There wasn't as much pressure for botrytis, but in 19, you had a bit of a
Yeah,
different
yeah.
harvest situation.
In 19, the harvest, the moment of harvest was extremely important. So since I spent, let's say, 90% of my time during harvest in the vineyards, I was lucky to actually be there and be aware of every little changement. And it was one of those years where you go out to the vineyards, you taste grapes over and over again, and then to wait for the perfect moment where you have the real yeah, concentration and real balance in the of the ripeness of the acidity and sugar. um, it was not as obvious to find.
So it sounds like 19 was a little bit more complicated in the harvest.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
definitely,
And
definitely.
in the cellar, was it, did you do anything different to kind of
Mm.
compensate for the levels of acidity or ripeness in 19?
No, not really. In the cellar in general, I would say we're working less with maceration on the skins in the past years, because I don't want to extract too much of the phenols from the skins, because we have these warm years with lots of sunshine, and I'm a bit afraid of too much. Tannins from the skins. So in general, for the dry wines, we used to do more of the sedimentation before or not sedimentation, maceration before pressing. But already since 18, we've stopped with that quite main. Almost with everything, like to have very, very short macerations.
Because you're worried about the dry wines becoming too structured and too phenolic?
Yeah, exactly. And for the sweet wines, we've never done those macerations, because for the sweet wines, Kabinett, Spätlese, Auslese, I really want to keep the freshness and the crispiness of the wines.
So when you're looking for, the particular grapes from 19 for producing Cabernet, for producing Spätlese, were you able to produce the whole range from dry to noble sweet?
The highest level in 2019 was Auslese Gold Cap. Um, we had some botrytis, some really beautiful botrytis, but not much. So it was not really worth it to do more selection for BA or TBA. But we have a beautiful Pittermännchen Auslese Gold Cap, which we will put on the auction.
Cool. Looking forward to tasting that. Uh, in 19, I know Cabernet is a really a big passion of yours. Um, would you say that the Cabi is kind of for 19 is true to your style? Are you happy with the character of the Cabernet in 19?
Yeah, yeah. Very much. We actually bottled Goldloch and Pittermännchen Cabinet yesterday, and we will in 4 weeks, I think, we will bottle the estate Cabinet and Schlossberg. We will put on the auction again, and then we have the other Cabinet, which is Bugleia Johannesberg, which is only the second vintage we're doing now. So
When
yeah, and I actually got the analysis of the cabbies we just bottled, and the pH is at 2.9, which is amazing.
So what are you looking for? What character for you kind of defines Cabernet? I mean, you have a dog named Cabernet. I know you drink a lot of Cabernet, so I know it's a passion. What's the
Mm,
character like? What's the soul of Cabernet to you?
drinkiness. You need for me really to have a cabinet which is drinky. You want to drink a second glass, you want to finish the bottle, and the bottle is not full enough. So what is drinkiness for me? For me, it's just to have a wine which has this refreshing character, which has this inner soul of fruit, of minerality, and of all those components to come together and to make a wine which is in perfect balance.
I,
So
I was just going to ask how are the Grosses Gewächs developing for 19? Are
For
they,
19?
yeah, are they a little slower than in past years? Are they moving quicker? What are you
Mm,
finding? And I,
I I I would say they're similar to a no, they are a bit more open and a bit more um balanced and more no what would I say yeah, more open, more ready to be tasted now than in previous years.
Matt has a question. Matt, you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Sure. Hi.
Hey,
How are you? It's good to see you.
good to see you too.
So you mentioned that the cabinet came in at 2.9 pH.
No,
What
it's
what
bottled at
or
2.9
bottled at
pH.
2.9 pH? What is the alcohol by volume for that?
The alcohol is at between 8 and 8.5. So,
Okay.
but the pH is more related to the acidity than to the alcohol.
Right, right.
Um, so the acidity is at about 9, which is normal
Hmm.
or usual.
Do you mind if I ask one more question? Sorry.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned that the that 2018 was or that 2019 was warmer at the beginning of the vintage. Was the average temperature for 2019 similar to 2018 for the growing season,
Mm,
or was 2018 higher because of the later spike?
well, to be honest, I don't have I did not check those data in detail. From my feeling, 2018 was an average a little bit warmer than 2019.
Okay. So that shows in the kind of character of the wine a little bit.
Yeah.
That 18 is kind of a sunnier. Do you find that 18 is like is a vintage which is showing very early, that where the wines were showing kind of their character, their individual site differences on the early side?
Mm, the site differences. No, I mean that's quite similar, but from my feeling, the wines, the 18s were a little bit harder to access in an early stage, like right now. The 2018, since we had this great minerality and this great acidity, the wines were quite closed for a long time, and that's why I left them very long on the lease. And 2019 is still completely on the lease also, but I have the feeling the wines are more open now than the 18s were at this moment.
Interesting. Very cool. Anyone have any other questions about the 19 vintage, about things in the cellar, changes at the winery? No?
Is 19 going to be a Zect vintage or?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
we didn't make Sekt in 18. That's true. Sorry. Thank you for reminding me, Abby. And since 18 was very early ripening, I decided very early that we're not going to make any Sekt. We changed a little bit our vineyard management for Sekt in 2019. So we put 2 branches on the vines instead of one, which we usually do. And also, we did not do any leaf plucking for the Sekt vineyards in order to protect the grapes even more from the sun. Before, we did a little bit of leaf plucking for the Sekt vineyards as well, but in 19 we started not to do it at all, and that really kept the great freshness. So we have all 3 sparklings are going to be made. So Riesling Reserve, it's already bottled. Second fermentation almost finished. Goldloch is still on the lees in the Stückfass, and Cuvée Maux is still in the barrels as well. So look at this. Here you have the leaves, and here you have the bunches, which are. Can you see?
Yeah.
The bunches, which are have not flowered so far. We're still very early in the growing season, but you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 leaves, and two quite big. How do you call it before flowering?
Buds, clusters,
Buds?
I guess.
Clusters? Is it
Cl-
already clusters? Because
ah,
we change words. We have for us it's called Gescheine before flowering, and after flowering it's grapes.
yeah, I guess clusters would be when the grapes are like after flowering, when the grapes have formed. I don't know, but
Yeah,
I guess we would call them buds. I don't know.
yeah.
I'll look it up to see if there's another word. There may be. I'm not a winemaker. So is this early?
Yes, relatively early. But
So
I'm not in the. We're quite pretty early in Goldloch and Burgberg. I'm in Hölle now, which is Premier Cru. So here I would say it's rather normal. But we always have very different stages of development. It's always in the steep slopes. Every year we're much more ahead of time of development than in these relatively cooler sites. So in comparison, in the steep vineyards, we've already sprayed twice because the development is much further, and here we just started the treatment.
so how the difference between in terms of number of days, what's the difference between Goldloch, for example, and Hulle?
Uh, at least a week, probably more like 10 days than a week.
Wow.
Mm.
And
Mm.
what's the in for you here? What's the average kind of time for flowering? Is it the middle of June?
It used to be middle of June, or let's say between 10th and 15th of June. But in the past years, we've been moving forward quite a lot.
So this seems like it will be another early year also.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Everything looks like an early, yeah.